Wilcannia is a small town on the banks of the Darling River in far west New South Wales. On Tuesday, 7th of February 2012, over 200 locals attended the launch of a pilot adult literacy campaign known as Yes I Can. The campaign seeks to address the issue of very low English literacy levels in Aboriginal adults through building community ownership of the program.
Literacy is a fundamental human right, yet globally nearly 800 million people, or 1 in 5, are illiterate. In 2000, UNESCO adopted the Dakar Framework for Action, which called for a 50% improvement in levels of adult literacy by 2015.
In Australia, there is a significant gap in the English literacy rate between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians, with up to 65% of Aboriginal people functionally illiterate in English in remote areas. A recent government report wrote that Indigenous Australians experience disproportionate levels of disadvantage. In 2008, the Commonwealth and state governments agreed to 6 targets to address this disadvantage.
Literacy and its possibilities for achieving social transformation was a key theme of the writings of Brazilian educator Paulo Freire. He invited literacy learners to read the word and the world, to develop a consciousness and critical awareness for the possibility of change in society.
The philosophy of Freire has been influential, particularly in the global south. Mass literacy campaigns in the 20th century or later are products of post-colonialism in newly independent states and use non-formal means to reduce the high adult illiteracy rates. They have generally taken place in a context of change and emphasise the potential of literacy for liberation. The history of the Yes I Can program starts in the days after the Cuban Revolution. Fidel Castro gained power in 1959 and inherited a country with a deep class divide between urban and rural populations. At the General Assembly of the United Nations in 1960, he announced plans for a mass literacy campaign through the island to build a society characterised by equitable access to educational opportunities.
Un año en que cada cubano que supiera leer y escribir enseñaría a cada cubano que no supiera.
During the year-long campaign, over 700,000 people became literate, reducing the illiteracy rate from over 20% to 3.9%. Cuba continues its strong commitment to improving literacy, and its per capita spending on education is one of the highest in the world. In 2000, the Yo Si Puedo, or Yes I Can, program was developed at the Latin American and Caribbean Pedagogical Institute.
A central feature of the program is a set of 65 one-hour lessons on DVD. Local facilitators work with students to follow the instructions using printed workbooks with written and oral activities. Facilitators are backed up by highly skilled technical advisors.
The program uses an alphanumeric system, associating letters with numbers, starting with the vowels from 1 to 5. It builds on the fact that non-literate individuals are often familiar with numbers. The program has been conducted in 27 countries around the world, with 3.4 million people achieving literacy. Mass literacy campaigns have not been a feature of Australian literacy education. Their success in improving literacy rates, particularly in countries of the global south, has been documented by agencies such as UNESCO. In 2006, UNESCO awarded the King Sejong Literacy Prize to IPLAC for the development of the Yo Si Puedo methodology. and its work to advance individual and social potential in countries, notably Ecuador and Venezuela. One country that adopted the program was the newly independent Timor-Leste in 2007. Australians, including Professor Bob Boughton from the University of New England, were invited to conduct an in-country evaluation of the program. Here he speaks on Green Left TV to Linda Seaborn.
They say it was actually Fidel who suggested to them that they should try doing it with television. And so they developed it as a TV program to use in countries where there weren't a lot of resources. So it was basically a model that they developed to use in those countries of the Global South.
So how successful has it been?
Well, in the countries where it's been deployed, in countries of the Global South, they're getting something like a 90% completion rate for people who are joining the classes. I worked with the Cuban Advisor Group in Tim.
This experience led to the establishment of a pilot campaign to investigate the use of the Yosi Puedo model in an Australian Aboriginal context. There are 3 phases in the program: socialisation and mobilisation, classes, and post-literacy.
Here, Jack Beatson, Campaign Director, speaks on Radio National.
So how does the program work?
Well, it really revolves around mobilising the community, the whole community behind the idea, which includes all the services and like the police, the magistrates, Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people, businesses and not-for-profit organisations, everybody getting behind the campaign, and I guess expressing a notion of valuing education and valuing literacy, and in doing so, you then tend to take away the shame of people that have low literacy levels.
Local facilitators, trained by the Cuban Advisor, ran the classes. They used an English version of the Yosi Puedo materials, contextualising and adapting the material for Wilcannia. Classes finished with a graduation ceremony, attended by several hundred people and the Cuban ambassador to Australia. The post-literacy phase aims to encourage people to become part of the culture of literacy. Activities included cooking and computer classes. Research has shown the importance of this phase, otherwise the acquisition of literacy alone is unlikely to be of lasting value. 43 adults made the giant step to enrol in the 2 pilot programs at Wilcannia. Some stayed for 1 or 2 lessons. Of the 24 continuing students, 16 completed the course. In Australia, literacy is commonly measured using the ACSF framework, which uses 5 levels. For comparison, the results of the latest ABS statistics show that around half of all adult Australians are at level 2 or below. In Wilcannia, students were tested and found to be at either level 1 or below, and most on exit tested at level 2. The independent literacy consultant found that Yes I Can had provided an opportunity for significant literacy building. Here, Lillian Lucas, coordinator of a later program at Burke, speaks to Pam Riley at Karma.
So far that campaign has been running for 12 months, and in total we've got 25 people who've graduated from that campaign.
And that's all local people?
Yes.
And how do they feel about it?
They're very excited. We've got some people who came out of it and have jobs today, which is very exciting for some of our people. One lady came out who couldn't read and write, and she's now trainee of CEO of the Wilcannia Land Council. So that's a big step in life.
It really means a lot to our mob to be able to read and write, and of course if we have those skills it's more easier for us to get a job.
That's right, to step in the right direction. We're here to help our people.
Graduates were asked, what difference has the literacy program made to your day-to-day life? Here are some of the responses. Here, Jack Beatson, Campaign Director, speaks to Pam Riley at Karma Radio.
What does this mean for the community, this National Aboriginal Adult Literacy Campaign?
I just think, shorter than giving a blind person sight, literacy is about the next thing you can do for an individual. But as a community, when people become literate as a whole community, it affects a lot of things in their lives. It affects the crime rate in communities, it affects imprisonment or incarceration rates of Aboriginal people, it certainly affects their health in a very positive way. And I think, moreover, one of the things that I get pretty excited about is that the children are far more likely to attend school. The idea of the campaign model is not so much about making a difference individually, but trying to make that difference with the community as a whole.
Yeah, and it's great to see Aboriginal people taking leadership roles in the community as well, isn't it?
Well, it really is, and I think that's the important part of the campaign. All the coordination of the program, if you like Lillian, all those people are local people. So the way the campaign model works is that we build the capacity of people in the community to teach their own people in their own community to be able to read and write. So it's Aboriginal people actually doing it for themselves, and that's what makes it work.
Gaining literacy embodies more than acquiring the skills of reading and writing. It allows the possibility of social change. Professor Boughton has proposed a framework which identifies 8 domains of development to evaluate the impact of literacy.
They are community, culture, economy, housing, politics, education, health, and law and justice.
In contrast, the Australian Government's strategy for adult literacy is driven by a vision to improve skills to meet industry needs for economic growth. The majority of adult literacy programs are delivered through the vocational training sector. Outcomes are measured using the Australian Core Skills Framework. The aim of a mass literacy campaign is to achieve a significant rise in the literacy level at a regional or national level. This pilot program in one community in itself was not a campaign, but was designed to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the model. In stage 2 of the project, a further 5 programs were run, one at Wilcannia and others at neighbouring Angonia and Burke. The results are promising and show that the Yes I Can campaign will have a positive impact in the communities where it is run. The not-for-profit Literacy for Life Foundation was established in 2013 to coordinate the rollout of the campaign to other communities who will take ownership of the campaign, using local facilitators and establishing a culture of literacy.